How you doing, people? Robert here, aka Rob S. Anti-Corruption Scotland. I'm here today with Glasgow Outreach and other people here to support us. We're up here today at the Glasgow High Court, and the reason we're here is to highlight what's going on in the system. We have a massive child trafficking, abuse, rape, murder in Scotland. You've got refugees, that they call refugees, coming in this country. They're committing crimes against sons and daughters and women, including rape, to the extent of sometimes murder. And they're not getting prosecuted because the system is complicit in all this. Your care services, your courts, your police. Police Scotland has been renowned for downloading child images. A large amount of police constables and all ranks way up to inspector has been prosecuted. They're most of them in the jail. And the only thing I disagree with that is when they're getting caught, they're getting not just soft sentences, what it is, when they get caught, even with the evidence, they're suspended on full pay. That should be stripped for the people for what they're doing. Right? The sons and daughters don't have any value in life. Now, there's also, I'll let Jim cover the judicial monster, John Harley.
Well, it's not just him, he's just the guy highlighting, John Harley's the guy highlighting it in the book who happens to be a judge. So he's coming from a very unique perspective about child sex abuse within the government, within the judiciary and other departments, because he himself was in the system and was a judge. So it's very important that we just make that point. We're not trying to lump everything onto John Harley in any way, shape or form. He's just highlighting things that we all know. Anybody follows these things, he's know about the child abuse, he's know about all of these things. Apologies for the swearing.
The point being, people need to start paying attention. People's sons and daughters have been murdered and people have been held to account. Stephanie Bonner's son was murdered and nobody's been held to account for that either. Police Scotland have just turned a blind eye at it. The judiciary has just turned a blind eye at it. Even when it went to the government, still no remedy for the family, still no respect to the family, and that's not acceptable. It seems to be that everybody in this legal system, legal society, seem to think they're above the law, they can do what they want, when they want, and it's just shut down permanently.
Yes.
There's nobody to account.
Yes.
And it's not the system that's at fault, it's the people, because the people need to step up to the mark, start standing by the people that's fighting the system. Like Stephanie, her family, Glasgow Outreach, Anti-Corruption Scotland and other groups. Change has to be happening. If you think that your politicians and the so-called nonsense government's going to make change, they're all part of it. Your politicians are part of it.
Yes, and you are all, by paying your taxes and voting for it, you're keeping the system going. We could get out of this crap very, very quickly if we don't stop paying tax and stop voting for these people, because these people are all corrupt. And if you don't know that by now, even if you've only been through 2 or 3 elections, you're only a young man, it must be pretty obvious to the whole lot of you that this whole system's rotten and corrupt. It's rotten and corrupt, and by voting for it, you're facilitating it, you're legitimising it. You cannot legitimise it. Stop voting, stop paying taxes. The reason that all the child abuse is getting covered up with the judiciary and the government, with grooming gangs, etc., the reason they're getting away with all this and they're getting soft sentences is because the whole system is so utterly wrapped up in all this stuff. That's why they give them the soft sentences, because they're thinking to themselves, if things really come a cropper on us and we start getting put up in front of, like, proper trials with a jury of their peers, for example, and they're thinking to themselves, that's not going to look too good for us, and it's not going to go very good for us if we're going to very, very high sentences to people caught dangerous. That's how they're letting them all away with it. That's how they're giving them the soft stroke, the wee slap in the wrist sentences. You need to get a grip.
And also as well, if you're voting and you think voting for the SNP is a good idea, they're the ones that are bringing in the left-wing kind of agenda, where at school, primary school children are getting educated in sex education. They're getting told they don't have to be the same gender as they were born in. And they're also getting like information like puberty blockers and stuff like that. So you think voting for the SNP is a good thing, that's exactly what you're voting for right there. Because they're left-wing, whether they say they're not, they are. So we vote it's a waste of time voting. It really is.
The thing is, well, people, has came to my attention, are sick, as far as I'm concerned, is sick. Seemingly the Scottish Nuns Party, John Sweeney, the Scottish Nuns leader, have been allocating money to charity LGBT, thousands upon thousands of pounds for men to breastfeed. How immoral and how sick is that? Why would a man want to breastfeed? And what's it going to breastfeed? So they're promoting sons and daughters to be abused. That's what's happening here. The government is full of nonsense. And I don't need to tell him on camera. I'll tell Sweeney and the rest of them to his face.
And as Education Minister, Swinney it was that was putting all this sex education into the school. He was desperate to get it into the school for some reason. Also, he was very, very, very deeply involved with trying to push the named person thing. I don't know if you're aware of the named person, but what they wanted to do was get a professional person in charge of everybody's kids. Each kid would be allocated a named person who would then determine if you decided, for example, that they weren't to be vaccinated because you know that it's poisonous. The named person would just say, no, we've got to get this kid vaccinated for their benefit, for their health. All lies, all garbage. As well as that, Swinney was also involved with the removal of the first chair and her team from the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. John Halley, that wrote this book here, he was the last one to be bagged off of that inquiry because they didn't like that people were going to give out too much information. Susan O'Brien was actually ruffling a few feathers, so they get rid of her. And when she left, and what was his name, Professor something or other, the professor that was part of her team, he left 2 weeks before her, and he resigned because of the interference of John Swinney in the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. John Swinney has got his nasty wee greasy mitts and everything to do with child abuse, and I mean everything. Named person, the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, removal of the first chair, the total whitewash of the inquiry, and choosing a new chair who is completely corrupt. She was put in position by a selection of judges, some of whom occupied the highest offices in the land, including Lord Brian Gill, Lord Hardy, and Lord Cullen. Lord Cullen's the guy that put the 100-year block on the Dunblane inquiry evidence being made public. They put a 100-year block on that, and it's quite obvious why, because it went right to Jimmy Savile's best pal. Jimmy Savile's best pal, of course, as you know, was Prince Chuck. King Chuck he's calling himself now. But it went right to him, and his brother is a very good friend of Jeffrey Epstein and a regular visitor to the man's home and his island and everything else. You need to get a finger out, because we ain't going to put this country right until these all get up. I don't care whether you're black, brown or white. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care whether you're male, female. I don't care even if you're transsexual. You need to get out and you need to support the kids, because yous were all kids at one time in your lives. Yous were all kids.
It's all about the kids.
Put yourself in the position of the kids, because I'm not tolerating this. Apologies for the language. I'm not going to tolerate this crap community here anymore. I would just like to say one thing. I do hope there are decent members of the judiciary, but they're certainly not coming out and supporting their colleague who was exposing it. Nobody, not one person from the judiciary has come out and offered this man any support. So you need to do something about it. It's down to the public. It's down to all the public. It's down to everybody. Because they've divided you deliberately. They divide you so they can keep getting away with all this stuff. It's not just the sexualisation of children. It's not just the procurement of them from children's homes up and down the country. And I'm talking about the John O'Groats to Land's End. You know, it's happened right throughout the whole of the UK. And it's happened for a long, long time, because I've been pointing out to people since I was a wee boy.
What about them kidnapping children as well.
Well, that's another thing, you know, the family courts are all very unconstitutional. All these things are unconstitutional. And have they got any law? The Constitution, incidentally, the Constitution was all written in, okay, it's not in a single document, you know, like maybe in other countries, it's made up a different document. It's made up over the years historically, all to remove power from these people who think they're your lords and masters. They are not. They are your equals. In fact, I would even suggest they are not your equals, because most people wouldn't cover up child abuse on such an incredibly large scale. They just wouldn't do it. But these guys are. These guys are, because they're covering up for the Crown. The Crown that swears the top level judicial members into office. And here in Scotland, with the Lord President, for example, it's the Crown that swears them into office. They swear the oath to the fake Crown, the unconstitutional parasite Crown. And we can't
start giving it for the kids.
We can't tolerate
Numbers.
it.
We need to start making a difference for the kids, because if we don't, then what the hell are we doing on this planet?
Yeah.
It's atrocious.
Because it might be your kids, even if you're well off, even if you're wealthy, you might die in a car crash, you and your missus, and then somebody takes over the trust funds you've left for your wains, and it ends up like a wee Oliver Twist scenario, where your wains get brought up in one of these places where they're getting abused and beaten and everything else. So it doesn't matter what your station in life is, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, because we're all kids once. You need to start sticking up for the kids.
The thing of the matter is, people don't get the concept of what I do. I'm clever at what I do. I know I've got first-hand knowledge and back up everything I say. What we've got is corporations. The government's not sovereign. The courts are not sovereign. They're all administrative. They're all corporate places of business. They're all registered in Dun and Bradstreet, right? So when people say the right to the council, or the right to the sheriff clerk, or the right to Police Scotland, right? That's entities. You're not writing to anybody. You're writing to fictions.
Legal personality.
But the thing of the matter is, what people have to get, it's a persona, it's a mask that these men and women hide behind. And you have to go for the individual direct, right? The man or the woman, no person. Person's a fiction. It's an entity, a dead legal fiction. That's why they use the word person in every aspect of legislation, because it's a fraud and it needs to change. People need to waken up. You need to stand by the sons and daughters and women of Scotland, because they're at risk right now. Sons and daughters are getting taken into care with children's panels, and they're getting stolen based on lies. That happened to my sister's son and daughter. They took him into care. Police Scotland was involved in complicit in abduction of my nephew based on lies for Dorothy McKillop of Renfrewshire Council, and Rose McAllister, a fat rat that she is, lied. They went to a court at 6:15 to get the order. They told the sheriff William Ireland, not to let my sister into the hearing, and then granted the order. That's how corrupt it is, people. They're stealing your sons and daughters, your offspring, property, right? You create it, you own it. Anybody creates property owns it. It's not a handbag or an item. You're, until it's of age to look after itself, it's yours. And you've been deceived and lied to all your life, and you need to wake up, smell the coffee. And if you don't wake up, smell the coffee, and stand by people like us that's in the street, try and educate you what's going on and showing you the evidence, then change is never going to happen. And remember this, your politicians and your Tom and Jerry governments is not going to make change. Only the sovereign man, woman, or the landmass of Scotland, England, Ireland and Wales can make change. Only the people can make the change. You have to want to make that change for that change to happen. And one way to get that change to happen is shut down the full country. Don't go to work, stock up with food, water, don't use public transport, shut it down and starve the beast. Because that's what the system is, a beast that you're feeding it. And that's the biggest beast. That's the beast that controls all other beasts within the police, judiciary, social services, councils, and that's a fact. I'm going to leave it there, people. I think we've said what we've had to say. What do you think? So we're going to leave it there. Thanks for taking time to watch.
One thing before you turn your cameras off, just to let you know that remedy is there. Article 61 of the Magna Carta gives you remedy. It doesn't just give you remedy, it demands remedy. Law, by law, it demands remedy by you, because once you're aware of all this corruption, you're supposed to take everything back off of all these parasites that are putting you on to poverty. Even middle class people now are counting the pennies when they go shopping. There's something wrong in your world when you know what I mean? Half of your bill goes in rent, or half of your wages goes in rent, and the rest goes in electricity, gas, and your food. These days, you're going to work for nothing, or are you okay at the moment? You're getting a high enough wage that the whole inflationary increases is no affecting you? Because it's coming to you. It's coming to you. It's coming to everybody. It's going to get worse. It will get worse before it gets better unless you up your bottoms and take to the courts, shut them down, squat them, demand from the constabulary to bring you food. They're your buildings. They don't belong to the councils. They don't belong to the judiciary. They don't belong to the government. They belong to you. And the councils have already fraudulently sold off all your property, and they're still doing it at an increasing pace. And they're pulling down all these beautiful architectural marvels. They're letting them get into such a state of dilapidation that they'll get trees growing out the inside of them. They're going to end up pulling them down. Why are you allowing it? They're destroying your whole entire city here in Glasgow.
Anyway, people, we're going to leave it at that. Please share this information on this video far and wide, because it's important information and it's for all people, not just some selected groups. People need to be aware of what's going on. Families are getting destroyed every day with this system. Sons and daughters are being raped, murdered and abused, trafficked and stolen by the state, the social services, children panels. You need to abolish the children's panels. You need to get a specialised court that deals that if there's an alleged crime against a son or daughter, that it's a specific court. The court has to deal with. Children's panels is another. Glenburn Paisley is a private corporation registered in Dun and Bradstreet. The panel members don't have authority. You get it for the entity known as council, the judicial person. This all needs to change. It needs to change now. Please wake up, smell the coffee, people. Stand up with county, stand with everybody. Include the Boner family, Glasgow Outreach, Anti-Corruption Scotland, every other valid group out there that's fighting against the system. Right? We're only there to try and awaken you, and that's it. All right, people?
One wee more thing about Article 61 Magna Carta, which is it's constitutionally applicable here. You'll get a lot of people in Scotland that are looking into the law, and they'll tell you that the Magna Carta doesn't have any in Scotland. Well, that's not quite true, because I'm going to be pretty soon taking a wee private prosecution or something, you know, to get some things that was done to myself with this whole system remedied. But if and when I get to the point where I exhaust the whole appeals process, before I can take that to the European Court of Human Rights, it's got to then be dealt with the Supreme Court in the UK. So anybody saying to you that Scots law trumps English law, how is it that the last port of call for any appeal for anybody that's been abused by the system, how come is it got to go to the English Supreme Court or the British Supreme Court, or whatever you might call it, United Kingdom, whatever of these businesses they want to identify as? The Constitution doesn't apply to businesses, it applies to men and women. And men and women are the people that are going to have to take it back. You're just going to have to resolve it. Can't you leave it all to me?
Yeah, let's just take it all back.
Yeah. Right, anyway, people, we're going to leave it at that. All you people have a good day, even though it's a shitty day. As you see, we're out in the rain. That's because we're passionate about what we do. There's no joke or kid on here. So deadly serious. Anyway, people, we're going to leave it at that. Please share this information far and wide. Thank you. Bye-bye.